I'm here in my demo, free trial demo Snowflake account. Use a free trial account because definitely this experiment here will consume some credits. Yeah, could be dozens of US dollars. You go to the benchmarking tutorials folder in your worksheets. This comes already populated with some samples from Snowflake. Let's have a look at this one. TPCDS 100 terabytes. Complete query test. Okay, let's keep the comments. And you see, at the beginning, you have a sequence like this one here. Let's have a look at this. They will create a warehouse. Okay, this warehouse will be extra small at the beginning, so one single node, auto suspended after 60 seconds. Yes, it comes initially suspended, but look, right away they will resume actually this warehouse. So they will start it. Then they change this warehouse to an X4 large warehouse. What does it mean? We'll see later on. Basically, this contains 128 nodes. But they will do this after the warehouse is suspended. So they will have to wait 60 seconds. Okay. And then, yeah, we select a schema here. We say, okay, I don't want to use a cache. Okay, I already executed this at the beginning before because I'm not concerned with this at this moment. What I'm concerned with is to use actually this last warehouse, yeah, with this X4 large warehouse to execute the next query. So just make sure here, after you executed as well this sequence, that you have this warehouse selected here in the top right corner and that you have this database schema selected as a current context. If you go to this schema here, you can see it. This comes from Snowflake. This is already shared for you for free from Snowflake. And let's have a look at the actual query here. The query is using store cells, which I know I know that this is the largest table here. So having a look at this, store cells, you can see here 288 billion rows in a 10 terabytes table. So that's a pretty large table, and the whole database schema, yeah, contains objects. Occupies more than 100 terabytes. So once again, just execute this one. And yeah, looking at the warehouse here, that's the one that I created before. You can see it here. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's 4x large warehouse with 128 credits an hour. So 128 nodes. Okay, so let's see what else. Yeah, we'll suspend it after 1 minute of inactivity. Auto suspended, auto resume. That's a standard one. It's not a multi cluster. Okay, we're good for now. Let's go back here. And right now, yeah, just select this query and start it. Okay, the query finished successfully. If you can see here, the compilation was very short, 4 seconds. Query provisioning very fast, queue provisioning. The execution itself was about 1 minute. Okay, so for a total of 1 minute and 2 seconds. So this was pretty fast. But what if you want something faster? Can you achieve this with an even bigger warehouse? So let's go back to our warehouse here. And this time we had a 4x large. Let's make it 5x large. Okay, so we'll say this and save warehouse. Okay, just be aware that it will take a moment to execute this one. Going back here, you can see this is our warehouse, and we'll go back here. We'll just select once again our query, the same query, the exact same query. Okay. Just remember, we actually change the warehouse, so the cache is gone. and we execute again the query. You can see here the query executed this time in a total of 24 seconds. What does this mean? Okay, obviously you'll pay the double right now for the warehouse, but because the time was cut in half, in less than half, this means that basically for the execution of this query, you'll pay less. The query executed in 24 seconds, so this is less than 1 minute before what you had before. So yeah, this is great. Let's go back here, okay, and we'll run this again. But this time, what we'll do, we'll say, okay, 6.6. Uh, we'll increase it again to 6.6 large. Okay, this should be, as you see here, 512 nodes. Okay, we'll have this. We'll say save warehouse. Once again, we'll go here. Make sure that you clear the cache, everything. Okay, and let's execute the query again. Okay, if you go back here, you can see that this time, yes, it took a while to provision the queue, but the execution itself was 15 seconds. So once again, we'll focus on the execution because, yeah, definitely queuing, compilation, and so on. These are different issues here. It depends if you just started the warehouse and so on. But for the proper execution of the query, once again, the time was cut in half. So basically, once again, this was a cost effective query. Remember, if you spend here just 15 seconds with double of nodes that you had before when the query was executed in 30 seconds, you'll pay basically the same. So here we go with the first tip. And that's a very important one. It's not so obvious that larger warehouses may actually cost you less. How can this happen? So, definitely, if you go to a larger warehouse, this means that you consume more resources. So, let's say if you go from a 4x large to a 5x large to a 6x large, definitely you consume the double each time. Yes, but the cost in Snowflake is actually a combination of this one with the execution time of a query. A larger warehouse will usually, not always, but usually bring you a smaller execution time for a query. So you can spend more for the nodes, but you spend less in terms of execution time. So we started with a 4x large warehouse with 128 nodes. We continued with a 5x large with a double of nodes, and we ended up with a 6x large with, once again, the double of nodes compared to the previous one. We have this in the first row here. In the second row, definitely we have the execution time of the query, and as expected, this will go down. Uh, in our experiment here, we almost had half of the execution time each time we doubled the size of our warehouse. This will not always happen, yeah, definitely in real life, but what we had here is that actually the higher cost that we had for the warehouse size was actually compensated by the shorter time of the execution query. Just as a rule of thumb, yeah. So because the warehouse size will always double in size in the number of nodes, if you have also the query execution time for the same query cut in half, you actually reach a breakpoint, a break-even point. So in this case, your query is actually cost effective. Let's review what happened in our first experiment with the 4x large. So we had a warehouse with 128 nodes that we executed in 60 seconds. If you look at the bottom, for my specific Snowflake account, yeah, that's a free trial account, but still this consumes credit. And in our case, in my case here, I consume $3 per credit. This means that for one single node, this will consume 3 hours per hour if you keep this node up for 1 hour. This is the equivalent of 5 cents a minute per node. So this is why my calculations here is very simple now. 128 nodes multiplied by 60 seconds, you get 128 multiplied by 5 cents. Yeah, 60 seconds is 1 minute. And you get 640. But look, it's very interesting, and I just round it up. You see, for the 5x large at 30 seconds, I had about 25 seconds. Uh, Once again, if you look, yes, I had a double of nodes, but I have half the time of the query. So basically, this cost me the same. If you look at the third experiment, it's almost the same, 640. Yes, in real life, yeah, definitely there will be variations, but if you have something like this, you see that actually doing this, I cut by 4 times. Yes, the initial query execution time. From 1 minute, I reached 15 seconds. And I can tell you, in real life, I had experiments like this where I limited the query execution time from, let's say, 15 minutes to 15 seconds. So, yes, in this case, just to review everything, we can tell that our query here was cost effective. This means that we actually got almost the same cost, but using more resources than usual. Virtual warehouses, remember, they bring about 80-90% of all Snowflake costs in a regular account. Once again, I've seen there are many variations, yeah, but this is where you'll spend most. Uh, just continuing with these checkpoints. So once again, just remember, double in size the warehouse, but if your query runs faster, twice as fast as before, you'll get approximately the same cost. Bigger the warehouse can actually save you money. Be aware also that at some point, yeah, definitely bigger warehouses will no longer execute so fast, and that small warehouses could sometimes take forever for very complex queries.